everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Danny.
And I'm 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿.
And this is our 99th episode. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. We're excited to be here. When this airs, we will, I think, just be getting back from Las Vegas, the Mr. Olympia Expo and competition, which we will have a table at, talking to people about the benefits of a vegan diet. And we'll be doing some other fun stuff while we're out there too. So we'll fill you in on how that goes probably in January, because we are pre-recording all of this because we will hit 100 episodes before the end of the year.
We might be past the 100 mark before the new year.
Can you imagine? We've said this before, like, what if we're ahead? What if we have them like recorded ahead of time?
Then we'll have even more to talk about, and hopefully we'll have more conversations with you, because we want to know what kind of questions you have, and we love your feedback, because we often don't know exactly what you want to talk about with us, but we have lots of ideas to share.
Yeah, podcasts are weird because you don't hear feedback about them, really. It's not like YouTube where you post a video and immediately people comment on it, or Instagram post, or Facebook post, or even a newsletter.
What do you engage with? I know you like to nerd out about other people's opinions and the conversation outside of the thing itself, meaning like you'll watch something on YouTube or you'll listen to a podcast and then you'll go immediately to Reddit and see what everyone's talking about. But do you ever engage directly with the person who's putting the information out there, or the people that are?
I don't really comment on YouTube almost ever, unless it's like actually my friends posting. I watch YouTube, but I don't really talk to those people.
Who would want to be in those comments ever?
Yeah, that's true. No,
Have they gotten any better?
But for real, you can comment on ours though.
No, seriously. I'm guilty of this though. Like, I always want to send an email to the podcast that I listen to religiously, and I just don't. And I don't know, like, I get bashful about it, or I don't spend the time or make the effort. But there are some certain podcasts like I'm a big fan of, and like I should just be messaging like, what do I got to lose?
Yeah,
you know?
Speaking of, if you do like this podcast, feel free to rate it wherever you listen to podcasts, like leave it a review or something like that. That's one way we learn what people actually think about the podcast. But also, it does help show it to other people. The more people who review it and rate it, the more people the platform will show it to. So that's really helpful. But normally I don't go look up YouTube videos and podcasts on Reddit. I look up movies. I will watch a movie and immediately go to YouTube to find out what other people are saying about it, or Reddit to find out what other people are saying about it, because I love movies so much and I want to talk to people about movies all the time, but you do not want to talk about movies with me that much. So I find other people who like to talk about it.
If you're interested in other people's stuff, you should consider joining our private community, where we get to talk about not just the stuff that we put out there, but we like to go over different authors and what they're writing and what they're talking about and this and that. Like Athena, for example, just started a reading list, so feel free.
A book club for our private coaching clients.
And you can take those books and put them on your reading list, and then we can talk about it together, as long as you're a part of the Muscles by Brussels crew. Get a membership. Try it out. You could use the link in the show notes.
And in 2023, this hasn't started yet, but in our public Facebook group, which is called Muscles by Brussels Radio, you can join that. Anybody can join that. We're going to be doing weekly challenges in 2023. Little fun weekly things that will be posted live every Monday in our public Facebook group. So we'd love to have you guys there too. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about something fun. Last night, I love Beat Saber. Okay, let's start there. I love the Oculus or VR game Beat Saber, where boxes fly at you to music and you have to swipe them in certain directions, whatever. For the whole end, and 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿 likes to play it with me too normally, but for the whole second half of his prep, he wouldn't even pay attention to me when I was like, oh, new song, you gotta try it. He wouldn't even look at me. But last night, he decided to play it with me, and we found all of these cool new features, and we had an absolute blast.
That 360 thing is wild. I don't even understand. And it's so fitting for a VR world, because who wants to stare at the thing right in front when you have something on your face and you can literally turn around and then boom, there are you have your rods in your hand and you're playing the notes by hitting the up arrows, down arrows, following things on the screen. And now you can do that like right in front of you. You pivot to the side and all to the beat of the music. It's like a way to dance.
It's exercise.
Yeah.
If you're good at it, like it's exercise. My Apple Watch is like, hey, you're exercising right now because my heart rate gets up. I get so sweaty. The inside of that VR headset is so disgusting because of how sweaty I get in there. But, you know, if you hate doing cardio, like treadmill cardio, elliptical cardio, and it's too cold for you to get outside, man, some of those virtual reality games really have you moving and the time like flies by. So that is my favorite. Do you guys like Beat Saber? I want to know. I tried Supernatural. You know what I can't stand about Supernatural? The trainers, though there's trainers. This is specifically an exercise app. It's not like Beat Saber is a game that happens to have you exercise. Supernatural feels more like, oh, this is deliberate exercise. There's trainers that talk to you the whole time, and I do not like them at all.
So you literally have arguments with the virtual trainer on the screen, right?
I'm just like, shut up. I don't want to hear you. I just want to play. And there's no way to turn it off, and you have to pay a monthly subscription for it. So that's not my favorite.
Well, that's the part that I don't like is the fact that you don't have the option. Mm-hmm. It's like you either work with somebody or not, because some people actually enjoy that. I see the merit in that, but I also
It's pre-recorded. It's not an actual person talking to you. It's pre-recorded. So it's just a voice coming at you.
Shouldn't be required. You should be able to have fun without someone speaking at you.
I know. Not a fan. But if you have not played Beat Saber in a while, go check it out. There's some cool new features that make it really fun.
You got any VR games you could recommend? Let us know.
Yeah. What are we actually talking about today, though, is a really relevant topic to the end of the year as everybody gears up for their New Year's goals. What is the number one New Year's resolution?
Fat loss?
Well, to lose weight, yeah. But are you actually ready to go into a fat loss phase? It's a big question that I don't think anybody actually asks themselves before they just dive right in. So we wanted to talk about some of the like checklist items, I guess, about whether or not you're actually ready to go into a fat loss phase.
Well, the very first thing you need to do is check yourself, because even though you may have dieted down before and done a really good job at it, where you were at when you did it the last time is going to be different than where you're at now, for two reasons. The first thing I think about is, like, where's your head at? What is your environment like? You know? The second thing is, how's your body going to be responding to you making a change, right? So it's like your lifestyle and how you're feeling about wanting to do it, and then how have you treated your body? What are you going to have to show for it at the end of this? And is your body going to respond well?
So let's talk about your body first. So what do you mean by that? So I agree with you. Your body has to be ready for fat loss in order for it to work at all. But like, what does that mean?
For your body to be ready for fat loss, the very simple answer is that hopefully you've taken a break from dieting for a while. That's the simplest way to say it. Now, we can get into the details. Taking a break from dieting down doesn't just mean not dieting down. It means that you've spent some time in a surplus, giving your body a wealth of resources to work with. And that doesn't just mean eating more. That means taking the focus off of dieting. Because you could be eating more, but like stuck in the dieter's mindset. And like psych-wise, that ain't going to help you, even though you've been in a surplus. Like, you're not going to be mentally ready to be there. You're going to wind up stressing yourself out. You may do it in spite of that, but like, will it have been worth it at the end? How will you be as a person? How will you show up in the world? How will you navigate that cutting process? You know what I mean? And then the other thing is, well, have you actually given your body all the resources it needs to feel good? Have you been eating enough? Have you been sleeping well? Have you been training hard? And what's going to happen at the end of this cut is it's going to depend on a lot of those factors and more, honestly.
Yeah. If you have been like, see, this is the worst case scenario. And this is what I see a lot of is someone will like diet for a couple months, maybe have some success with it, but they sort of like crash diet for a short period of time, have some success, stop, gain the weight back, and then some in a really short period of time, and then say, oh crap, let me do that again. They crash diet for another month and a half, make some progress, but less than they did the first time, stop, gain it back, and then some, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it just keeps going. And this is what you want to avoid. When 𝐬𝐿𝐾𝐿 said, like, have you been eating enough? It's also like, have you been eating enough for a long enough time? So I don't even necessarily think you need to have been eating in a surplus. I think you just need to have been eating at maintenance for a while, like at least 6 months.
Define maintenance, Danny, because, and I don't want to lead you too much here, but like, you could be eating at a set amount that's not dieting down, but not doing your metabolism the justice that it deserves.
Okay, so maintenance is very technically the number of calories that you need to maintain your weight right now. Now, I think what 𝐬𝐿𝐾 was getting at, and this might be a little too complicated for this podcast, but if you have been doing what I just said, like these cycles of crazy restriction, your metabolism might be not working optimally. So you might have suppressed your metabolism a little bit, and your level of maintenance calories might be lower than it should be. And the only way to fix that, quote unquote, fix that, is to eat enough for a decent period of time and probably walk those calories up a little bit over time. Does that make sense?
Which is not putting you in a surplus. It's just making sure that you're keeping your metabolism a little more revved up.
Yes, it's like following your maintenance as it sort of fixes itself on the way up. So I have a client, we're doing exactly that, actually. She had dieted really hard on and off for a couple of years, I think, actually. And now her maintenance is low. And anytime she eats above that, she just gains body fat. So we're deliberately taking some time to eat at that kind of low maintenance and walk it up over time. And then, and only then, will we be in a position where we can decide to deliberately pursue fat loss and hopefully in a much smarter way.
There's a lot of fear that circles around that because you have gotten certain results for a period of time. And so it's kind of hard to change that. But like, yeah, for sure, making sure that you're eating enough as opposed to suppressing your metabolism.
Yeah. And I mean, a bare minimum of 6 months. That's a bare ass minimum of 6 months. For example, I am actually going to be starting a cut at the beginning of the year, not to compete or anything. I'm just going to be starting a regular old fat loss phase in January. But I have not dieted really at all, not deliberately anyway, since November of 2018.
Hell yeah.
So we'll be coming in, well, I guess it'll be just over 4 years, right? 2023. Yeah. Just over 4 years by the time I actually start cutting. Now, I don't think you have to not diet for 4 years, but when I say 6 months is a bare minimum, I'm not kidding. Anything less than that, and no, I do not think you're ready for a fat loss phase. I don't think your body's going to respond the way you want it to. You might cut your calories and your body might be like, oh God, not this again. And it'll just start to slow things down on you really quickly. It'll make you super hungry and irritable much faster than it would normally. Fat loss, when you are set up for it appropriately in the first place, at least the first part of it should be kind of easy. Like that first month or so should not feel that hard.
I don't disagree with you there. I'm trying to think of a scenario where the first month feels really hard. And the only thing that comes to mind is when someone is just straight up not ready, or they've just been too lean for too long, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But when it comes to physicality, like physically, are you ready? That is the number one thing. So if you have been eating at maintenance or above for 6 months or longer and not deliberately trying to diet at all in that time, then your body is probably ready for it. Have you guys heard of the Vegan Cruise? If not, we want to tell you about it because we are so excited to be presenters on the 2023 cruise, and we would love to see you guys there. So the Vegan Cruise is exactly what it sounds like and so much more. It's a cruise from March 17th to March 24th that leaves from Miami and will be visiting Belize, Honduras, Costa Maya, and the Bahamas on the beautiful MSC Divinia. It is so cool to wake up in a new country every day of the trip, seriously. But as if that wasn't enough, one of the biggest drawbacks of most cruises is that there's nothing vegan to eat. I had a client actually go on a cruise recently, and she said she was shocked at how little she could eat, and for that price, it just was not worth it for her. But that's not a problem on this cruise because all 3 meals are fully catered, vegan, and made by gourmet chefs. You will never be hungry. There are also get-togethers like ice cream socials and pizza parties out by the pool. Very fun. And to top all of that off, the cruise is absolutely loaded with some of the biggest leaders in the vegan movement giving lectures, presentations, and classes. Folks like Dr. Greger, Dr. Barnard, Dr. Clapper, Robert Cheek, Juliana Hever, and so many more, and of course, us. We will be hosting exercise classes and giving presentations on plant-based fitness. And of course, we would very much love to spend time with any of our listeners who come out. So if you're interested, click the link in the show notes to book your spot because it always sells out. And mention Vegan Proteins when you book and you'll get a $50 onboarding credit at the vegan bookstore. We look forward to vacationing with you guys.
So what does it mean to be mentally ready for fat loss? Well, first of all, I think the easy way to approach it is the fact that like you want it and you know that the reward's going to be there. And I think it's an easy sell to put yourself in a fat loss phase. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily should be there. Like, yeah, I think the carrot is constantly on the stick when it comes to fat loss. Everybody wants that hit of dopamine that they get from seeing their body change and get leaner. Not everybody, but I think it's just like one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, duh, I can do this. Like, I'm going to feel good. Not necessarily the case, right? As far as being mentally ready for fat loss, yeah, like you'll see the reward. It's there on the table. You will get leaner. You will enjoy that, I think, to some degree. But it's also painful to diet down. It's a pain in the butt. You have to wind up deploying skills that you normally don't have to be at maintenance. You have to be more intentional when it comes to being aware of portions, being aware of how much you're eating on the whole, being aware of how to protect your body from muscle loss, like all the things that you can let slide a little bit or be a little more flexible with. You have to be on it when it comes to dieting down. And that means that you're going to just wind up doing, even if you're taking a more of like a type B personality approach to things, you still have to control a lot more variables to make it work and work well, right? Getting in the right amount of protein, getting in the right amount of sleep, getting your training in to make sure that you're holding on to your muscle. Again, like focusing on food balance, eating nourishing foods because you're winding up not eating as much. So it's that much more important to eat nutritionally, for example.
Yeah, I think that you have to mentally be ready to change your lifestyle, right? Because if you just keep doing what you're doing, nothing is going to change. I saw this funny Instagram reel yesterday that was somebody just being like, all I want is to radically change my life without actually changing anything that I do. Why is that so much to ask? And it was very fun because that's how people are, right? Like, ugh, I wish I could just change everything about myself without changing anything about myself. And why is that so much to ask? When you want to embark in a fat loss journey or a weight loss journey, let's say you're just starting out and your goal is to lose 100 pounds. Your life is going to look very different as you approach that 100-pound loss than it did at the start. And you need to be ready for that. You need to be even wanting that, like craving that level of discipline in order to be successful at it. You really have to embrace this idea that, ooh, this is going to be hard. I'm going to have to say no to things that I have been saying yes to. And I'm going to have to say yes to things that I have been saying no to. And I'm going to have this conversation with this person, and it's going to be hard. And if you're not mentally in the space to be able to do that, you are not going to be as successful. And that is a hard pill to swallow. Like if you don't feel like you have it in you right now to turn down dessert on your date night or popcorn at the movie theater, like you're not there. You're not there. And if you know that and you try to embark on a fat loss journey, you're going to likely fail. you're going to feel really bad about yourself and think you are a failure, when in actuality, this just was not the time. This wasn't the time, and maybe in a couple months it will be the time.
I'll tell you what, though, even when you are ready, when you first get slapped in the face with like, oh, I'm eating not as much now, you take a bit of a hit in terms of like, well, this is what life's going to be like right now. This is what it's going to feel like. But then like when you're in and it's it, like you start to embrace it and all systems go, all hands on deck. But
well, for you, that's not necessarily true for everybody.
Well, I mean, I guess my point is when it's successful, it's still going to suck. It's still going to be painful. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And, we talk so much on this podcast and to our clients about sustainable fat loss methods, not making this any harder than it needs to be just for the sake of, calling yourself a badass at the end of the day. We don't think that's helpful. We think there are smart, sort of gentler ways to approach a lot of these things, but make no mistake about it. This is hard. If it doesn't feel hard and you're not getting the results you want, it's probably because it doesn't feel hard. Because in order to get the results you want, it's going to feel hard. Some of the time, at the very, very least, some of the time, it's going to feel hard. You're going to have conversations with yourself about why you do not actually need to go back to the fridge right now. Like, you don't need to have lunch early. Lunch is going to come in a half an hour. Like, these are things you're going to have to think about. And it's hard. And, those moments of weakness, they happen. They happen to all of us. And it's like, how are you going to face those? How are you going to prevent those in the instances that you can? Which brings me to the next part. Like, is your environment set up for you to be successful here? And by environment, I mean like your job hours, your sleep hours, your family life, your responsibilities. Like, are these set up in a way where you are going to be successful? And I know for myself, going into this new year and trying to face this journey, that's the biggest hurdle that I have at the moment, actually, is that my environment for fat loss is, as it stands today, not ideal. Giacomo knows because he just went through a prep here. But, suddenly having two small children while trying to run a business and travel around the country approximately one time per month, it's a lot, as it turns out. And it's many opportunities come up throughout the day to make not the best choices every day. So that's something that I have to get in order before I embark on this, is make sure that I have like systems in place for all of these things. The kids are having pizza for dinner. What am I going to have for dinner so I don't eat the pizza with them, while also like not being really weird, like auntie's on a diet, like not trying to do that in front of the kids either. So like, how do I structure that in a way that's good for me, that's good for them? How can we do this? I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it. And hopefully I'm going to be documenting some of this on our YouTube channel, VeganProteins channel. So go subscribe there. In January, some of these videos should start.
And maybe I'll wind up talking about how I went through my prep as I begin to be in a safer place where I can actually reflect on it while you're talking about your dieting down process. And you'll see some videos of us together putting that information out there about not only being ready and in a healthy place mentally, also how to execute in a way where you don't compromise the people around you, your environment, your job, all of it, right? Like, it has to work for your life and for life surprises, right? There's no perfect starting point. There's no good starting point.
Well, there are better starting points than others.
This is true.
But there is no perfect starting point for sure. So yeah, getting your environment and your support systems in order before you start is really going to be helpful. Making sure the people around you know what your plan is. Do you have a coach or a trainer or a training partner or somebody that's going to keep you accountable to what you said you were going to do? Because that is a really important part of success.
Hey listeners, we hope you've been enjoying this episode and we appreciate your love of all things vegan fitness. For those of you who want even more support on your vegan fitness journey, check out our Muscles by Brussels community and become a member. By joining the team, you are one of our exclusive VIPs. As a member, you'll find over 200 macro-friendly, high-protein recipes that can meet any of your meal planning needs. You'll also receive training programs that update monthly. This training has progressive overload built into it, so you can be sure if you're following the program, you are making progress. All of this and more is located inside our Vegan Proteins members only app. As a Muscles by Brussels member, you'll unlock bonus courses, challenges, and more every month. You'll also be invited to our live Zoom video calls, which happen 2 times a month, and they're absolute gold to those who show up. And if you can't make the calls, don't worry, you have the opportunity to email us whenever you want. You'll receive a video response to all of your questions from one of the coaches here at Vegan Proteins every time you message us. Members also receive 40% off many of our other services. And of course, our private community of like-minded individuals is like no other. Best of all, you can try this membership out for a full month at no cost to you with this special offer for our listeners only, because we appreciate and want to fully support you. Use the link in our show notes to sign up for your free trial today. We hope to see you on our next live coaching call.
What are some other thoughts, ideas, tips, if you will, on what to do ahead of time? So you got your support system. Do you have a coach? Have you talked to everyone? Other systems in place that I could think about? I like to journal and make a list of things that I don't ordinarily do because I don't need to, that I know that I will eventually need to do. Right? And I start to prepare like that. Honestly, for me, my battle station begins in the kitchen. I start to think about how I'm going to stock my pantry and my fridge differently, and how I'm going to not offend the people around me because I don't live alone. And what I do shouldn't impact them. I'm not going to blame them for whether I succeed or fail based on food, how they like to eat and what they have around, for example. And I also need to make sure that my environment, like my needs are met, right? Like how am I going to shop for food, for example? Stuff like that. I think that's a simple tip to parse out. I think other things to get ready for, like, okay, well, what will my schedule look like? And am I adaptable? I will eventually need to be walking more often, for example. I will eventually need to be doing cardio, like making peace with yourself that these things that you don't normally have to do, you're going to have to do. In the beginning, you're going to want to do them because you know that they're required for you to progress. But then when you're starting to feel like crap, like when the diet fatigue sets in, you're going to negotiate with yourself and you're not going to want to do these things, but you got to do them anyway. And you got to find a way to enjoy them. So for example, like I stack things on top of the things that I have to do to enjoy them more, right? Rather than being like, I'm too tired, I don't want to go walking. I'm like, if I don't walk, I can't read because I listen to audiobooks when I go walking. So now I'm going to go walking, for example. You know what I mean? Or like even stuff like that, for example, like stacking good things that you'll only do if you do the things you have to do that you are feeling a little lazy about doing because, again, you're fatigued because your diet's stressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. Having those plans in place before you even start. Good idea. This is a really big one. Before you even embark on a diet phase, a fat loss phase, you need to ask yourself, like, are your emotional issues around food or weight or your body, are those mostly resolved? Because a lot of times the knee-jerk reaction when you have problems with emotional eating or a bad relationship to the scale or your body, what do you want to do? You want to diet because you think that is the solution. That's how I'll fix my relationship with food. I'll just diet. That's how I'll like the scale better. I'll just diet or like my body better. And it so does not work that way. It does not work that way. You might be happier with the number on the scale as it goes down, but the scale is not going to go down forever. You didn't actually improve your relationship with the scale at all. You're just happier with the number on it today. But what are you going to do on a day where it goes up instead of down? Like if you feel like crap on that day, you did not improve your relationship with the scale. Likewise with your body. Your body is going to change every single day from now until the day that you die. So you need to learn how to mostly make peace with your body where it is at now before you even consider changing it.
I also like to think about how you feel when you're dieting down and how it's easy to attach a lot of pleasure to that, but it's not the outcome, put it that way. We wind up enjoying the feeling of being lighter, and so we get fixated on that. But your body is in a process of change. It's not balanced out. So I think it's very important to also set a goalpost that's going to be moved past the finish line. Meaning, once you're done cutting, those aren't your results. That just means you're done cutting. Your body needs a month or two to recover from that to actually look good.
It bounces back a little bit.
And the things that, maybe some of you are aware of this, maybe some of you are not aware of this, the things that happen to you while you're cutting, you're going to react to those with a little bit of shock and a little bit of confusion if you're not already aware of what's going to happen. Like, put it this way, Danny, you lead the way on this one. Like, what happens to your body? What happens to your body that our listeners might be unaware of that can cause confusion?
At the end of a cut, you mean?
During the cut. Like, what does cortisol do to your system or what is glycogen depletion do to your system?
This is
as far as your look is concerned.
We're talking about people getting really lean.
Not necessarily.
I think a lot of it has to. So, okay, we're going to step forward and step back for a second. So, one of the things I would encourage you to do is make sure that you are realistic with the amount of weight and body fat that you plan on losing and the time frame in which you lose it. Those have to be realistic, because if they're not, you're going to have to crash diet to do it, and everybody always bounces back terribly. They rebound from a crash diet, so you don't want that. But, when I say have realistic goals, obviously a person can get shredded, but most people cannot stay shredded. So where do you actually want your body to end up and live? And is that realistic for you? And it's going to be a different number for every person. But yeah, the closer you get to shredded, the more your body freaks out, I guess, is kind of, I think, what you were getting at there. That, the leaner you get, the more sensitive you are to every single food that you eat. Any single food can suddenly one day randomly just make you incredibly bloated and gassy. And you're like, what is going on here? If you have a day where you eat higher carbs than a previous day, the scale can go up 2 or 3 pounds. And that's totally normal, but it's going to freak you out a little bit. So is that what you meant? That sort of thing?
Yeah, you're definitely playing to the point in regards to what I'm thinking about when it comes to weight loss, body fat loss, being in a cut, stuff that can confuse you when it comes to gauging progress. Or what you look like, right. So you know when to stop or how far to go or what's actually happening.
Right. Well, I think, there's 2 different types. There's a million types of people that pursue fat loss, but some people are already a healthy weight and body fat and they just want to get really lean. And then other people they have more body fat than maybe they would like to in the start, and they just want to get to a healthier weight. So those are going to be very different journeys. Somebody who's going from overweight to a quote unquote normal weight, that's going to be a very different journey than someone going from a normal weight to very lean. So again, define your goals, define when you want to get there, and ask yourself if it is realistic. So like we've mentioned in a million podcasts before, the leaner you get, the harder it is, the more your body's going to fight back against you. So, you could be 300 pounds trying to get to 200 pounds, or you could be 150 trying to get to 130. That's very different journeys. If you are hating your body right now, you're going to be really disappointed that even if you reach your goal, you are probably not going to be very happy with your body. We see this in bodybuilding all the time. People think, oh, when I step on stage, then I'll love my body. And I have almost never seen this to be true. Once you get there, it's like things that you never would have thought were flaws before, now you are keenly aware of them and almost laser focused on these tiny, tiny little things. Like, I have this tiny little area I can pinch here, or this tiny little area I can pinch there, or, this delt is very slightly smaller than this delt, or this glute is like a centimeter higher than this glute. Like, what? You never would have thought of that before, but now you are. And you are not going to find body love on a fat loss journey. You need to be pretty happy with yourself, have a pretty good relationship with your body. And I don't mean you need to be obsessed with the way you look before you start. I don't think that's realistic, but you at least need to be like neutral about your body. Like, I neither love it nor hate it, but hey, it's a body, it works, it carries me around. Like, I appreciate you, body. That's a good place to be. Same thing with the scale. This is a number that reflects my relationship to gravity at this moment. The end. Like, that's really all it should be. And when it comes to food itself, you absolutely 100% will not resolve issues with food, like emotional eating issues, through dieting. I will plant my flag right there. It has never happened. It will never happen. Dieting is not going to fix your relationship with food. So if you feel like food has some power over you now, oh boy, look out. You might improve the quality of the foods that you eat. That's great. But are you now terrified of eating anything that you don't deem clean? That is not a good relationship with food. So it's just, you want to have your house in order before you even start. Is what I'm saying.
I'm thinking about training, like what to be prepared for, since we're doing a lot of talk about body image and a lot of talk about nutrition. What about activity? Like, how do you prepare for a change in the way that you train, and how you're going to feel when you're training? Oh, in your recovery, training stress. Like, as you diet down, your recovery suffers. You become more and more under recovered. Even regardless of where you're at, you just don't respond as well to training, and you don't respond as well post-training as far as like how you feel. You know what I mean? So like prioritizing your sleep hygiene, for example, is pretty darned important. I do feel like you actually wind up getting a surplus of energy. Maybe it's like the adrenaline and like the motivational effect of, oh, I'm about to change my body and get closer towards my goal of what I want to look like lean. Like, I feel like in the beginning, your training actually improves, but then eventually you're sort of like dragging your heels.
Again, I think it depends on the goal, like where you're starting and where is the goal,
Yeah.
A body, I think you're thinking of a contest prep fat loss phase. I'm talking about anybody that wants to lose fat. Because what you're saying is totally true, especially if you're already starting with like a normal amount of body fat. But if you're starting with an excess of 20, 30 pounds of body fat, I don't think your training is going to suffer that much. Maybe at the very end.
Well, I'm trying to think of different examples. I mean, we have so many different types of listeners. It's hard to know exactly who we're speaking to here audience-wise. But then another thought process is that your biomechanics change, for example.
That is true.
That's an important thing to consider.
But I don't think that's something you can prepare for.
You can think about it. You can go in with the right kind of intention that you'll need to adjust how you move your body, right? Even with 20 pounds to lose, when you have less, mass moves mass. So if you have less mass on your frame, your biomechanics are going to change, for example. So just things I think about to consider during the process and just like ahead of time, so that you get out of it safely and you're moving well, for example, as opposed to just being a hamster on a wheel or just like plugging away at the goal to try to push as hard as possible. You want to be able to make smart decisions and smart choices about what you're doing.
The very last thing that I would say about are you ready for fat loss is, are you ready to take radical responsibility for your own actions? Because it is so easy when things are not going well in your fat loss journey to blame something, to blame someone, to blame a particular food or X, Y, Z, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, this is a time for you to really be ready to put the spotlight on yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do. And nobody should be able to stop you from doing something that you do want to do. Like, nobody puts this particular food in your mouth. with the exception of Daisy and Desmond, who apparently literally put food in my mouth sometimes. but you understand what I'm saying. Like, this is the time to not look for other things to blame. This is the time to say, okay, this happened. What can I do better in the future? How can I change this for the future? Not, oh, this sucks that this happened to me and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not saying there's no validity to that. What I'm saying is it's not going to help you right now. What is going to help you is asking yourself what you can do differently to prevent missteps or to set yourself up for the most success in the future as possible. And this is really hard to recognize when it is your fault, when you're not making the progress and it is actually you standing in your own way. Like, that is a freaking hard pill to swallow. And listen, man, I have swallowed it more than once. So I'm not just talking out of my butt here. Like, I understand how hard this is to do, but you need to be ready to do it. And not only will you come out the other side of this, hopefully at your goal, but also honestly with more character, more strength of character, because you can take responsibility for yourself.
It's so much easier said than done when there's so much around you to point the finger at, because in reality, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, life will throw you surprises. That's just what life does. But for the most part, there will be a lot of things in your environment that will be static the entire time, from pre-cut, during cut, and post-cut. And only after you're cut, when you're back to a state of balance, will you be able to look back and reflect and be like, you know what? My environment didn't change. I did. And I could have done a better job while this was happening to understand that I was the one that was changing. You know what I mean? And sometimes you can catch yourself in the act, and other times you can't. And then you have to think about it and then remind yourself, I'm the one that's changing here, not my environment. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that actually goes doubly so for when your life throws you surprises too. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's obviously some blame there, but there is also what you can control, how you feel and how you process and how you pivot to make sure you're still doing the thing that no one should be able to stop you from doing. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah.
So if you're considering going into a fat loss phase at the beginning of January, like many people, myself included, these are things to at least ask yourself before you embark on that journey. If you can say, yes, I am ready for this, I am ready for that, then you're going to be much more successful. And some of these things you can kind of get out of the way now. Others take longer. But at least being aware of them, you'll be armed with more tools for success going into it. And of course, if anybody needs any help with their fat loss journey, hey, we're your people. So reach out, VeganProteins.com. We have several courses on there. We have our Muscles by Brussels membership, and we also offer one-on-one coaching, which is our specialty. There's an application at VeganProteins.com if you are interested in that, and we would love to be part of your journey.
Moving on to our question and answer segment for today. I just started to take creatine. Does it matter when you take creatine? I currently take it in the morning and work out in the late evening.
Good question. So no, actually it does not matter when you take creatine at all, as long as you take it every day. So the idea is that you're going to, over a week or two, fill your creatine stores. And then once they're full, that daily dose, it's just maintenance. You're just topping the tank off every time you take it. So you don't need to take it pre or post workout or anything like that. You just need to take it daily for it to be effective. All right, 𝐶𝐭, this one's for you. For hack squats, how low should you be squatting? I currently do them so my quads are parallel to the floor, but I see some people on social media and they go lower than that. What should I be aiming for?
I don't really know what the purpose of breaking parallel that much, going as A2G, ass to grass. I don't know what the purpose of that is, other than for bragging rights that you have a whole lot of flexibility and you can get down with your bad self. Because what are you engaging once you break parallel ever so slightly? Nothing really. And honestly, at that point, it's a flexibility and mobility humble brag, right? Because you're just going to gain a little bit of momentum, if anything, on the way up. And congrats for you. You can get low. That's cool. But honestly, even slightly breaking parallel is not going to do you all that good. honestly, unless you're a powerlifter and you want to train your body to be able to break parallel so that you don't get red lighted, which in essence means like, no, you're not doing a full squat. The definition of a squat is when your hip crease goes below your knee, like you can draw a line from your knee to your hip capsule. And if that line is straight, then you haven't broken parallel. If it's a little crooked, like meaning if it's angled downward, you've broken parallel. And you only need to slightly break parallel. That's it. And that's for powerlifting. When it comes to creating a hypertrophic response with your quads, you want the muscles to be working at all times. And even when you slightly break parallel, your quads aren't really working all that much, in all honesty. So when I think in terms of a hack squat and what you want to get out of it, you want to work your quads and you want there to be a decent amount of load on your quads at all times. So getting to parallel is right at that point where like your quads are still loaded for the most part. Anything below that, even slightly breaking parallel, you're not getting that much tension on your quads, not that much load on your quads. There's really no point in it. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. Feel free to stay in touch with us on the socials at Vegan Proteins, at Muscles by Brussels, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
We also have a new TikTok that is Vegan Proteins Coaching.
Send us an email whenever you'd like by hitting the contact button at veganproteins.com or a coaching inquiry. You'll get a video response from us, and we love hearing from you. Once again, my name's 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿,
And I'm Danny.
and we'll talk to you soon.